Okay, great. So tonight, for our speakers, we've got Dan Brown, who's the Director of SMB Sales and Sales Dev at Handshake. Dan? And we also, thank you everyone, Chad Dyar, the Director of Sales Ops at Greenhouse. So to kick it off, I'd like to pass it to them. If you guys don't mind taking a turn each, give them a minute, tell us a little bit about yourselves, why you're so passionate about sales dev. Sure. All right, how about this? Tell us how you got into sales, why you are where you are today. We'll take from there.
Got it, sure. So I've been in tech sales for about 5 years in New York. I started at Yodel. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the sales model there. Grip it and rip it, 150 calls a day, credit cards over the phone. It's kind of where I really cut my teeth, and I was there for about 5 months, had the opportunity to join another startup called Axial. I was there for about 3 years. I was there when we were about 15 employees by the time I left. A year and a half ago, we were over 100, had raised a couple rounds of financing. From there, I built out a couple teams. We had a free user acquisition team that we had to build a sales team around. I did that and then moved into the cash collection side of things in sales, where I built out the sales development team there from nothing to a team of about 8 by the time I left. Saw some really great things from building out the sales dev organization. Most of the team got promoted to AEs. I wanted to do something similar again. I moved over to Handshake about a year and a half ago. Started with really nothing, and now there's a team of 7 sales dev reps, and I also oversee 3 SMB account execs.
Great, thank you. Chad?
I'm Chad Dyar. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, and I moved up here in November of this year. Actually went to school and started my career as an opera singer. Spent about a decade touring the world and singing, and then I switched over to sales on some advice from my mom in my 30s. She said, how about stay in one town and see if you can turn that personality into some money? So I jumped on the phone at Reed Elsevier. It was basically an SDR role, and we closed our own business, and I was the same way, 100, 150 calls a day, grinding it out, and then trying to get those deals closed to hit my quota. Fell in love with sales early on and started to look for ways to learn more about it. Ended up just kind of navigating through the sales career in Atlanta. I got involved in some SaaS companies. One SaaS company, I walked in the door and they said, hey, we're glad to have you. Can you build a sales org? So I started from basically nothing. I hired the SDRs, hired some AEs. We put a marketing plan together, all stuff I had no idea what I was doing, but somehow we built something fairly successful. And that was the start of a new passion for me, and I took that a couple other places. Right before here, I was brought into Toshiba, which is a little company based out of Japan, and they wanted to turn one of their customer service orgs into a high-growth, high-volume sales organization, which was the aftermarket business. So I ended up hiring a big team for that. That's where I fell in love with the sales ops piece, which helped me get over to Greenhouse, because I had to develop everything. I had to build the tech stack. I had to build our Salesforce instance. I had to do a lot of different things there to get us up and running as a sales team, and then we ended up growing our business tremendously, which afforded me the opportunity to start writing and become a little bit more of a thought leader in my space. Those writings turned into a blog. That blog turned into a professional blog, so I was writing for fun, I got paid to write, and then that eventually turned into my book, which came out in October of last year, called How to Talk to Humans, which is a book on communication skills. There was really a lot of the things I picked up when I was on the phone making cold calls with funny accents when I was in my early 30s trying to figure out how to make it all work. And now I'm at Greenhouse. I've been there since November. Sales Ops, Director of Sales Ops. We're doing about 1 million different things all at one time. My team's responsible for making the SDRs and the sales team shine, making sure you have strong reporting, strong tech tools, you understand how to use them, that you're trained up, and that you can be the best that you can be at your job. So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions. A lot of them are old school, so feel free to fight with me.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you both for coming. We're excited. So I want to start at the top. Let's take it from strategic to tactical. What are your prospecting methodologies? How do you think about prospecting?
Sure, I'll take this one. So we were chatting a little bit before, and we both agreed on the way we go about it is a mix of old school, like John Barrows, Jeff Hoffman, why you now prospecting, and he also includes the why.
Yeah.
But from there, the methodology is also, we don't want to spend too much time crafting these emails, finding the correct person to go after, having a specific thing to talk to that person about. So we're going to do a little bit of that and also mix that with a predictable revenue style of emails that we know work, that they be tested, and from there start attacking them and hitting phones.
Before you go on, I don't know if everyone's familiar with John Barrows and the predictable revenue. Do you want to just expand a little bit on both of those?
Yeah, sure. So I'll let Chad talk about the why you, why in now. The predictable revenue, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the book. Some of you are not. It was written by this guy, Aaron Ross, who's one of the first reps at Salesforce. He didn't like cold calling, like most of you probably don't. Put together a series of emails that really say, if I touch X amount of people per day, I know I'm going to get a certain amount of responses. These responses are going to turn into introduction calls. From there, I'm going to turn X amount of intro calls into demos. Demos turn into sales. I'm going to scale that, repeat that.
So I'm looking at things from the relationship building standpoint. The why you, why us, why now. All the whys is what you need to know before you pick up the phone to make the first dial, before you sit down and type out the first email. You have to have an approach ready. You have to understand what your methodology is, what your company does, what you have to offer, and then you have to have some conviction behind that methodology so that when you pick up the phone, you're not just wasting your time, you're not wasting their time either. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen made early on in careers is when people just pick up a script and start getting on the phone, and there's no conviction, there's just words on a page. So you actually have to understand the why behind what you do. And in this SDR role, if you don't, that's one thing you should grab your manager and say, excuse me, why are we the best in our market space? Why you? Why now? What's the urgency in this phone call? Why should they not only buy from me ever, but why should they buy from me right now? And being able to establish that credibility on the front end of the call helps build the relationship and the confidence in your company and your brand.
Cool. So Dan, you're doing a mix of why you now that really personalized and makes it and also predictable revenue, right. Just spray and pray almost, obviously with the strategy.
Right. So the why you now strategy can really be built out on your prospect outline. So, I mean, you need to pick your winners, and you guys understand the industries and the prospects and the personas that work. The why you now is not going to be overly different for each of those. So figure out what works, pick those winners out, and then scale that out.
Okay, now Chad, your prospecting, your philosophy, your methodology, a little bit of both, or are you one way?
A little bit of both. I mean, I am slightly open-minded.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like to kick it old school. You gotta
expand on that. That's
well, I mean, I like to kick it old school. The spray and pray. I think you can be strategic about spray and pray. I think you can be prepared. I think the wider the net you cast, the more fish you're going to pull in general. And if you're prepared and the spray and pray is strategic, and you say this is a big wide open marketplace, but this is the marketplace that I play the best in, you're going to have to go for the big play in that marketplace.
Okay.
I mean, you're not going to throw it in every single direction and just see what sticks. But if you can find a place that's your sweet spot, you should go after all of them in it.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about the types of companies you reach out to and the buyer personas. There are a lot of SDRs here and SDR managers and AEs and a lot of other demographics, also consultants, that sell to an enterprise buyer. Right? I know a little bit about Greenhouse, I know a little bit about Handshake, but do you think your methodology would change if you were going after an enterprise, or how does it change when you go after enterprise?
Sure, so when we're going after the enterprise, so Handshake sells B2B technology to brands who are selling wholesale. So think about any consumer goods manufacturer or distributor who's trying to get on the shelves of a retail store. That manufacturer is selling to the retailer. So if we're selling to the salesperson, that message is going to be a lot different than the enterprise sale where we're selling to an operations or an IT manager.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, in our space, we're selling to people that need to make great hires, which is every company out there. So it's about helping them understand what our solution does for them and getting them to buy into it.
Okay. So in terms of reaching out to these people, you have a buyer persona. Mm-hmm. You're using LinkedIn, you're using Zoom Info. What tools are you using in order to build that list? Let's start at the how about this? Let's talk about the process, right? What does your process look like from beginning, research phase, all the way to you're about to make your first phone call, send out your first email?
Research phase, I think research phase is what shoots a lot of SDRs in the foot, to be honest with you. One of the things that I've been doing for years, and I encourage people to do for years, is kind of find a data sheet with a couple of points that work for you. Maybe a personal point, personality point, something they're passionate about, a business point, something about their company, something their company's done or achieved, and then something really specific to their title, like a pain point. And if you can get those kinds of information baked into a data sheet, or you can bake them into your CRM if that's something that works. I mean, I don't like throwing a ton of additional information inside of Salesforce. It's pretty crowded already, so it's easy just to keep a Google Doc up. And as you're building these profiles out for strategic accounts and decision makers, just a couple of points in the research. You're looking through LinkedIn. I see this. I see you're passionate about volunteering at this. I see that your company just got a round of funding. I see that you're in a title that's usually responsible for this type of hiring. That's really all you need to pick up the phone and make the call. You don't need to read a biography. You don't need to write a novel's worth of notes. Because what happens are, those are the people that you spent an hour, and this is the best prospect you've ever seen in your entire life, exactly who you're looking for, oh my God, the best possible scenario, and you spend all day preparing for this call because it's going to be the best call you've ever made, and you call them, and a few things happen. You get the voicemail, bam, wall. They don't work there anymore. They say they say the other person across the office who has the exact opposite personality is the actual decision maker. And what did you do all morning besides prep for one thing that didn't turn into anything? So what I say is be creative. Come up with a few points, learn how to have a conversation and connect with people, ask some really specific questions early on in the call to engage them in the conversation, and then the sky's your limit when you get them bought into talking to you.
Okay, awesome. What about in terms of like the actual research? You're using LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me get back to the actual question. So yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is probably one of the best tools that you can use because it's sourced by the people who are putting the information in themselves. They keep up to date with it. If they change jobs, they want you to know they changed jobs. So LinkedIn's a great resource. LinkedIn Navigator is something we use. It's a great resource. A lot of things inside of LinkedIn, setting reminders, getting information when people are changing jobs, company information that can be sent directly to you from there. So that's a great resource. Okay, from a sales ops perspective, then I'll toss the question to Dan. Sales ops perspective, they have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, whatever it is. How are they building their list? How much time are they spending researching? Are there any rules that you put in place to prevent someone from going through that analysis paralysis? Well, I mean, one of the things that we do is we assign the accounts. Okay. So we give them a set number of accounts that they're working, and then we build those into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, top 20 accounts. Then they're able to go through those accounts and prioritize. So if they're looking at their top accounts and at those decision makers to their top accounts, they know that's how to prioritize. The most important dialing time of my day is going to be spent going after these accounts. The most important research time of my day is going to be spent researching these accounts. I'm going to put this information together, go after them, and then I'm going to pick the next 20 after I knock those out.
Cool. All right, so account-based. Very account-based.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
Yep. So we, on the contrary, we work by assigned leads per week. So each SDR is getting roughly about 300 assigned leads per week. From there, these leads are sourced from our marketing team, and then they're dropping them into SalesLoft, and then they're also using, SalesLoft Prospector, LinkedIn Navigator, and dropping them into their SalesLoft cadence, and then they're responsible for 8 touch points for all these leads over the course of 2 weeks. So there's accountability on both sides of things. We used to have all these emails going out straight from the marketing department. What we found, not too much accountability on the SDR side of things. They don't know who to go after, they just have the whole database. When the leads are assigned to them, they're responsible for sending out the emails. They take ownership, and these, the 300 so leads per week, they're split from the different buyer personas. So, the messaging is a little bit different, and it can't just be, the same message on phone call or email to every single person.
Okay, cool. So you touched on something really interesting, and when I transitioned from an SDR to SDR manager, and I was a player coach for a little bit, I thought the one thing my team was really missing was like technology, sales acceleration technology, and that's not true. And we ended up trialing everything under the sun, outreach and cadence and all the different stuff. And right now we are back to basics, phone and email, because if you don't have the fundamentals right, you were doing everything wrong. Yep. But our place here at Smartling, we're selling to very specific people at very specific companies. Total addressable market is not tens of thousands or millions of companies. Are our PCs here? Anyway, what's your take on sales acceleration, and if you can tie in like how you personalize that, how you personalize outreach through sales acceleration technology?
Yeah, sales acceleration is something that we've probably bought over the last year and a half at Handshake. When I first started, we had these crazy goals within pipeline, and we're like, all right, we got to figure out how to touch as many people as humanly possible. So we mess around with Connect and Sell, just similar to Boresight, where they're basically making thousands of cold calls for you. They get somebody on the phone, the SDR's phone rings, and then they try to have a conversation, which is kind of ridiculous. We pretty much moved away from all sales acceleration technology aside from SalesLoft. And at the end of the day, our best conversations are coming from emails that the SDR team is sending out. However, when you're testing all sorts of different emails, what we found is that our second and third emails within a cadence, we're getting like a 44% open rate. So these people know who we are, they understand we're coming after them. We're hopefully providing messaging to them that says, here's why I think you're a good prospect, and here's why I'm not going to stop until you tell me no. So, and then from there, we use the sales acceleration within SalesLoft to we're calling the people that are opening our emails, we're calling the people that are clicking through, and we're calling the people that we're connected with. So the chances of us getting on the phone and converting somebody that hasn't opened an email or has no idea who we are is much, much lower than the people who are somewhat familiar with us because we've hit them up a million times or because they know somebody that we know.
I have a few opinions about sales accelerator tools. I think they're great. We use pretty much all of them at Greenhouse, it seems like, from day to day, and they're a great complement to a really great process that's built out. But they're also a strong hindrance to a lot of people. I think it's reasonable to say a lot of SDRs are in their first role or first couple of roles. And one of the things that sales acceleration tools can do, some of them specifically, maybe outreach is a good example of this, is take the place of them being actively involved in the reaching out to people, because building sequences and pushing things around and waiting for people to raise their hands, it's a wonderful way to get low-hanging fruit. But working strategically through accounts to identify specific roles that you're trying to reach out to and have conversations with, that's the way to build relationships and to learn how to get through the entirety of your career. An SDR who spends all their time in emails and automation does not learn the skill set to advance to become a manager or an AE or a VP or a director and all the other places they want to go. So you have to actually put your hand in the pot and get a little bit dirty through the process to learn the skill set. And I think, like I started with, sales acceleration tools are awesome. They're awesome as complements. They're awesome at reaching out to a group of people that you don't want to spend your time calling to see how many of those people are going to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll take a demo, yeah, I'm interested in your product. But I think kicking it old school is the way to go. Get on the phone, tailor some emails, learn how to do some really strong research, and then craft your skill set through reaching out and having personal relationships with your prospects.
Cool. There's a tweet in there, by the way. Sales acceleration is a compliment, not a crutch. Tweet.
Boom.
Hashtag. Okay. So I want to segue into something you said, right? Building a relationship. Who here's a first-time SDR, first-time AE? Show of hands. Room full of seasoned vets. Okay. Don't be embarrassed. Okay. Anyway, so it's tough. I'll speak about this for myself. You're reaching out to someone and you have like 2 months experience. You're reaching out to VP of marketing and you're like, I know what your problems are and your pain points, and it's like it's silly.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd love for you both to speak a little bit about, if you're a new SDR, you're new in the role, you're new in an industry, how do you build up that digital footprint that you feel confident emailing someone and they're going to check you out on LinkedIn or wherever and feel confident that they should reply to your emails or phone calls?
I'm all about this. I think building your brand is something you have to do in any industry and any job. And I think as an SDR, you can still tell a story. You can look at the things you were able to accomplish. I sat down with a group of people at Greenhouse a couple of weeks ago to look at their profiles, to take the resume off the profiles and build a story in so they could actually present a brand. And that brand could be, I was really successful in high school. I was a leader in high school. I played sports. I did all these things. Then I went to college and I had all these experiences and all these internships, and now I'm in this role. And not just, here's what I do in this role, and here are 5 bullet points of what I do from day to day. Here's what I want to achieve in my career. Here's what I hope to do in this role. Here's the reason that I'm reaching out to you in this role. And then there's a whole part of the top at LinkedIn where you can just talk about yourself, and you should put your hopes and dreams. Your brand should be, these are the things I hope to accomplish in my career. So when someone's talking to you, they're talking to somebody who's motivated to get somewhere, and they can look and see, well, yeah, they've only been doing this for 2 months, but they have a game plan. They don't want to be an SDR for 6 months. They want to be the best SDR for 6 months, and then the best AE, and then eventually the best VP of sales. And telling that kind of story through your social media helps build your brand and the confidence in the people you're talking to. One word of warning. LinkedIn is awesome, and if you want to build some of that into your Twitter, into your Instagram, into your Facebook, awesome. If you don't, put a block up, because your people that you're calling are looking at you too. And if your Facebook is wide open and you have 9 beers in your hand in your profile picture, that's who they're talking to when they make that phone call back to you or they respond to that email. So get rid of any presence that you don't want people to see that's non-professional, and then put everything professional out there so that when they're reaching out to the company and you're reaching out to them, you represent a really specific brand, which is your company's brand and your personal brand.
Got it. Awesome stuff. Another thing I can add on to that, obviously make sure the people who are representing your company on that first touch, the SDRs, they look professional on their LinkedIn profile. But what most SDRs can do is, the marketing team and the content team always is looking for help and are more than happy to say, hey, I don't want to write this blog post, you go ahead and do it. Paste that right on the front of your profile. It's pretty much instant credibility that you can call somebody up and say, hey, I was just writing an article about exactly what you guys do and how I work with other companies like you. Do you mind if we have a quick conversation?
And I'll take that to the next level too. If you're going to be on LinkedIn and you're going to build your profile and you're going to build your professionalism, connect with the right people, share their content, like their content, get people talking, become a part of a conversation. And then the next level is find those prospects, those ideal prospects you're looking for. What groups are they in? Start putting some conversations in groups. Don't sell to them in the group. You know, that's their private space. That's like coming into their home and trying to sell them something like a used vacuum cleaner salesman. Go into the group and talk about a pain point that you know is a big part of that industry. A lot of people I'm talking to have this issue. How do you deal with it at your company? And watch people start to respond to that. And then you have an end to start a conversation with them because they responded to the content you put out there. And it's a really light touch to be able to start a conversation with someone that you could do business with.
Sure. Another thing that is super easy to do, and especially as an SDR, whatever industry that you're selling to, chances are there's trade shows, there's events going on. Go to those events, connect with people, get it out there that you're there, you're present, you're actively learning and care about what these people care about and how you can sell to them.
Cool. I like it. Just got intimate. The lights down. Okay. On that note, let's talk about social media etiquette. All right. So LinkedIn, you mentioned that. I had a guy sending Snapchats. I thought that was too intimate, and just walk me through. And Dan, you mentioned an 8-touch cadence. Yeah. I'm joking. There's no Snapchat here. Where does social media fit in? You spoke about building your credibility. How do you use it as an outreach strategy and prospecting?
Sure. On the social side of things for us, it's just strictly LinkedIn. We're talking about getting more social at the trade shows and whatever, but within that 8-touch sequence, there's no reason or no excuse whatsoever that this person, you can't find this person on LinkedIn, you can't shoot them another message on top of the phone calls and emails that you've been leaving for them, and just be straight up. Be like, hey, listen, I've tried you on phone and email a handful of times and haven't been able to get through. We'll definitely connect with you. You know some people that I know. Do you mind if we talk? At the end of the day, the worst thing that they're going to say is no, and then to move on.
And I'll circle back. I use a lot of different forms of social media promoting my own brand. I use Snapchat to promote my book. I literally sent pictures of me holding it to everybody in there with the little website where they could buy it. So and Instagram, Facebook, anything that you can get your message out on, use it. I mean, that's what it's for. One thing that we've had success with some of our SDRs is Twitter. People are following the prospects, the clients, they're retweeting things, they're posting content they get from the marketing team, and they're being a part of a bigger conversation, and then they can make that phone call or send that email and say, really love what you saw today, retweeted it, want my whole community to see it, can we have a conversation and talk about it a little bit more? And it shows people you're paying attention to what they're putting out there, and it gets you a little bit more credibility.
Yeah, so there's this guy that works on my team. He's literally on Twitter all day long. I have to tell him to shut the thing off, but he has like 20,000 tweets, and he's like obsessed with social media. He's the chair of the Swansea City Football Club in New York City, and he's always on Twitter, really active about that. And so our clients are always attending trade shows. So he starts, he's got us to like start following the trade shows on Twitter, on Instagram. It's just such an easy way in, especially for him. Like that's what he loves and is like really passionate about. So why not use it to your advantage?
I'll say, we were talking about this before we got started. Now that I'm in a director position in New York, I get hit up by SDRs all day, every day of the week, emails, calls, constantly. And one of the things that I'm able to share back with the team here is who has success in getting to me, because there are people whose products I probably would have never looked at in a million years, but because of the way they reached out to me and because they were paying attention to my social media and used buzzwords that really resonated with me, someone took the time to read something about a post where I quoted one of my favorite authors, researched it, found another quote that really resonated with me that was different than a quote I'd even seen before, and wrote me a really specific email based around that without even trying to pitch me anything. Picked the phone right up and called them. Hey, yeah, let's talk. Because they got my attention and made me think, I'm going to get a break in my day to have an interesting conversation, and then they can sell me whatever they want to sell me because they've already built a little bit of credibility with me because they've invested time to get to know me. I mean, I'm an old redneck from South Carolina, so I'm easy to chat with, probably more than some of the people around here, but that's what gets my attention more than the, I know I'm in some drip campaign because I've gotten 30 emails from you this week, I can see the cadence, this is your third email that I've sent to you, why are you not responding to my emails? And that just pisses me off, so don't do that. If you're gonna do something, make it personal. It takes 5 minutes to read a LinkedIn profile and to pick something out that stands out to you and say something about that in an email or even leaving a voicemail or something that was mentioned on Twitter rather than just plugging me into a campaign because that's never gonna get my attention.
Yeah, I'll just share this because I hate sales acceleration software. I don't hate it. I hate the abuse of it. And I got an email from someone, and I called him right away because it was so personalized, it was so good. And I'm like, hey, you just called, and he had no idea who I was. What my company did, all that stuff. At the end of the conversation, I said, Dennis, I'm like, you wrote the best email. He's like, no, that was from marketing. I was like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
You know, but
You didn't send it.
Always take credit.
he didn't send it. No,
You didn't send it.
no, he did not send it. He put my name, someone dropped my name in to some drip campaign, and it was like, but as a sales dev manager, the pain points are pretty obvious, so I don't know, he hit me. I'm a sucker for that stuff. Anyway, I'd love to, we have 5 minutes left, right? So I want to cover one more tactical question for the crowd, then we'll open it up to Q&A. Best practices, and include in there the tools, some of the technology that you use. Best practices specifically for prospecting.
Best practice in prospecting for us is really just understanding what that persona really cares about. So if you're selling to a sales manager, like they want to make more sales and they want their lives to be easier. So however you can help them understand that, the much easier you're going to get them on the phone, or even just get a chance to listen to them.
I'd say best practices are, a lot of us are in SaaS companies and it's like a hornet's nest of activity all the time. You can log into a million websites and see what's happening in the world, and you should. You should have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the industry that you're in. You should be networking inside the industry that you're in, and then you should be leveraging the people that you're around every day, saying what's working for you, what's working for you, what's working for you, and then tell them what's working for you as well, and then pass some of those tips around. Somebody in this room has probably written an email that had a 95 response rate. Somebody probably has. Somebody probably called, look at this guy right here. Somebody's probably called, made 100 calls in a day and connected to 20 people and had conversations and had the best day of their life. What did they do on that day? So it's good to be able to look at the people, especially at these types of events, and say, what did you do that made, what was the most successful day of your career look like? What was your best day as an SDR? What did that look like? What did you do? How did you get there? And leverage the people that you have access to, especially in a room like this right now. As far as tools, I mean, I know we've been beating a dead horse over here with LinkedIn, but it's a great tool. Any tool where people put their own information out there. There's a really strange one called Crystal Knows that I was introduced to recently that could be completely like 50-50, like really awesome or really terrible, but it's really fun and interesting, so I'd say look at that. It got me completely wrong. So I think it's funny, but I've looked at it for other people and it's been completely right. So it basically just looks at your social media presence, and then it gives you a lot of touch points if you're trying to reach out to a person there.
Cool. All right, bonus question before I open it up to the crowd. Go back to the beginning of your sales career. What advice do you have for yourself, knowing what you know now?
Don't be afraid to pick up the phone.
I'll come up with a new one. Go.
Yeah, we talked about the tools and the emails and everything, but at the end of the day, the first director of sales I ever had said, you know, as a sales dev rep, the phone it's like a money phone. It's your paycheck. So the more times you pick up the phone, the better chance you have of winning the lottery and getting the perfect prospect on the other end of it. So I can't tell my team enough, you know, oh, well, I'm just doing some research on this guy. I know he's a perfect prospect. Well, call him, and if it doesn't work, call his assistant, and if the assistant doesn't pick up, call another sales rep on his team and figure out what his manager likes. So just call people.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback on that since you stole mine anyway. I think it's all about the work ethic. When I started out a million years ago, and I was in a room much like the movie Boiler Room, which was just a bunch of really sweaty guys in tiny cubicles making 150 calls, staying there till 8 or 9 at night, getting there at 7 in the morning, just call, had to make it happen, had to hit our numbers, had to get paid. It's about work ethic. I had no special skills when I started selling. I walked in, I was a performer, so I had maybe a personality that people could get across the phone, and that was basically all I had. No background in sales, no knowledge. They gave me a script, they said go, and when I started making that high volume of calls, I had success right out of the gate. I never missed my quota, I never missed my metrics the whole time I was there, and all I can say that attributed to that was my work ethic. So I would just go back and tell myself to work even harder, because I probably could have progressed even faster if I had dedicated myself a little bit more. And then also, don't be scared to be creative in your process. We pick people, I think a lot of teams pick people who show signs of creativity and innovation in themselves that can develop something outside of the box that if it works, they can pass on to the rest of the team. The people that get promoted the fastest on the teams that I've ever managed are the people that stepped outside of the box and showed creativity. They tried a message that may have seemed slightly offensive and maybe it blew up in their faces and maybe it didn't. Or they tried tactics, or they took the old school tactic for me where I would speak in the dialect of whatever place I was calling, no matter how bad it was, because it always got people's attention. And some of my accents were really probably offensive and horrible, but people would always engage with me when I did that. And it was just a silly thing I did to pass the time when I was just calling. So don't be afraid to be creative from day to day. Don't be afraid to try things outside the box.
Cool. Before we open up to Q&A, big thank you to Chad and Dan. All right, great. Any questions from the crowd? Go ahead, project. Take it from the top.
Okay. So I have people that they have several years of experience, and they're in this point where I try to tell them, pick up the phone and call someone, but it seems like they're resistant to calling someone that has many more years of experience than they do. So how do you help motivate them and show them that it's okay to call someone that's at that level of the organization?
Sure, so I can take this one. I have quite a bit of experience in this. So the company I was at, Axial, the gist of the company, it's a network for people who buy and sell companies. So on one side are private equity firms, family offices. The other side are investment bankers, high net worth individuals, or just CEOs themselves who are looking for financing. So I ran into, we would hire a lot of mostly guys that were coming from like 4 or 5 years of finance and were basically just scared to call this MBA private equity guy who went to Harvard and makes $1 million a year. And what I tried to convey to them, and what as a team we tried to convey to these people who are afraid to pick up the phone is, we have real life stories of how we help them out. We have name brand clients of other people that they know, and we work with their competition. So if you can, have some sort, that builds your credibility right away. And if you can just always relate that back to a story where, hey, I was just talking to John at XYZ private equity firm, you probably know him. I introduced him to somebody else. It's an easy way to start a conversation. It's not easy to convince somebody who doesn't want to pick up the phone to do so.
Yeah, it's the old practice makes perfect. You got to talk to the first CEO before you talk to the next 2,000. You learn to have those conversations, you learn their language, you pick up on the specifics of how they like to communicate, and then you start to reflect that back to people you speak to that are in similar roles.
Thanks. Great, okay.
What do you guys feel about Sandler?
About
Sandler training? Like Sandler?
not familiar.
Not familiar.
I love Sandler training.
Oh,
Changed my
groupie.
life.
Awesome.
I do.
Tell me more.
I know it's old school, but I've seen it work so well at many companies. I think it's great.
We will look into it.
I've done it for 1.5 years and I like it.
You like it?
Yeah, we did John Barrow's also, so we added that. Because that's like pure, John Barrow's like prospecting tactics and the first part of the sale, and Sandler talks to you about the whole thing, gives you some methodology. It's a little old school, but it rings true. Out there in the back, Max.
So I have an Axial specific question. We have a former Axial member in our office, and we also deal with people who are kind of very similar ICP. They have their MBA, they're working in commercial real estate, they have been pitched before, and they make, whatever, $1 million plus, they're smarter than you, and what's going to change what your pitch? So I guess my question is on the group engagement with these individuals. You've already sent them a drip campaign, you've already reached out to them, you've already told them that you also like Duke lacrosse where they play, how do you go from there?
Yeah, so specifically for a persona like that, I mean, especially as a young guy picking up the phone and giving them a call, if you can say like, hey, like I'm super interested in what you do, and for better or worse, maybe you admire them, maybe you don't, maybe you want to make $1 million, maybe you don't want to do it that way. The more you can relate to them and say, just like, I'm just looking for some help, I'm looking for some advice, I think you might be able to help me out, is going to warm up that conversation a hell of a lot more than, hey, I've really been trying to get your attention for a couple years, like, I want to sell you something.
Yeah, you have to know your audience and you have to play to their ego. One of my goals early on in my career was to become friends with Jeffrey Gitomer because he was a writer I respected and I wanted to be a writer. And I had to learn to speak his language, and I had to network in his circles, and I had to meet people that worked for him, and he was incredibly inaccessible. But through basically appealing to his huge ego, I somehow got into his circle at some point and have had the opportunity to work with him since then. It's a great tool to be able to network on LinkedIn because you can see people's communities and you can establish your credibility by being a part of their ancillary community. You don't have to be connected to the person at the end of the line if you're connected to their top 10 confidants, 10 people they respect, 10 people they work with. And those guys tend to run in packs. So it's a good way to get inside and then ask for an introduction. When you get an introduction from the right person, whether it's a LinkedIn introduction or just someone you know in your community, even if it's the CEO of your own company or some alumni from your school or university that would be able to reach out and just perform an introduction, it gives you a little bit more credibility than just chasing them when you played lacrosse at Duke. I mean, it works with some people at a certain level, but when you're up at the top, you have to prove that you can play in their playground.
All right, cool. Any questions from the right side of the room? I don't want to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Left side. Sitting down.
What's the delta between the bottom performer and top performer in your team?
Math question.
How do you explain it? So maybe like 20% or 1 to 5 between the bottom and the top?
It's really wide, depending on how long they've been in the role, how new they are to the business. So if you're talking about people that are fully ramped up, then it becomes a work ethic on the SDR team to see where they are. They're always overperformers, and there are always people that are right under the radar, and then there are people that are a little bit below that. I'm not going to give you a real specific number here because we just changed our entire methodology and moved to account-based selling, so there's a pretty big delta right now on the team. But I think it's just a training issue when it comes down to improving the bottom up and then understanding when to start cutting people from the team if they're not going to be able to perform so that you can keep your average number above the line that you set.
Yeah. What would you then?
It might just be a good point just to mention account-based marketing or account-based sales development because it's kind of a new concept
for folks. Account-based selling is basically working accounts strategically, tying all the contacts, all the touch points on an organization to one account so that the rep that's responsible for it can work it strategically throughout the ranks of all the contacts. I think one of the things, lead-based selling to me has always been a marketing tactic, more so than an SDR organizational selling methodology. So when I think of account-based selling, I think of giving an SDR the tools to really reach in, understand a business as a whole, really research a company, and then really understand the nature of the contacts they're reaching out to there, and build champions. That's something you can do in account-based selling that's not as easy to do in lead-based selling. You can look at the list of people that you have as far as contacts there and understand, I can't get the DM, I can't get the CEO, I can't get the CFO, but I can get this person who's sitting at the desk every day experiencing the pain of having to use a system that is not nearly as good as ours and get them to be a champion and reach up through the organization to get the right people on the line. So account-based selling is just a more strategic way to have deeper conversations and a deeper footprint inside of other companies.
Yeah. I just want to weigh in on one thing that you mentioned, the bottom 20% at the top. So when I became a manager, I had to fire 3 people, which is like, hey, you're a manager now, fire someone. Terrible experience. I didn't sleep for days for the first one. The second one I was a champ, but it's a joke. It's a joke. No, it's so hard, but I'll tell you that on a small team, if you have people that are underperforming, I like the drum. If you have people that are underperforming, it drags your top performers down. So that delta, you can't even measure that right. It's not that the 20% are down here, the 80% are down here, or up here. The 20% are keeping that 80% at their mediocre level. So as tough as it is, like you really have to cut that bottom 20% because their weight's on a hot air balloon.
Yes.
Good analogy.
That happens. Why? What is the bottom 20 doing specifically?
It's what they're not doing.
Yeah, right.
It's what they're not doing. It's what they're doing, distracting everyone else. They're disruptive.
They're the cruisers and the researchers and the time killers and the people that are in the kitchen half the day and the people that take the 2-hour lunches and have an excuse why they're late every single day. The 20% are usually the excuse culture. They're not the performers show up and they have a reason for what they're doing. The 20%ers show up and have an excuse for why they're not.
Yeah, in sales development, most of the time you're bringing on more than one at a time. They're getting the exact same training, they have the exact same leads, they do the exact same activities. At the end of the day, it just comes down to work ethic, and if you know that most of the team is achieving quota, which the quota should be set up that are fairly attainable by the end of the month. If somebody's not hitting 80% for 2 months consecutively, there's definitely a problem. If it happens another month, then it's probably not the right person for your team.
Yeah, action plans are in place to be able to take people that are underperforming, that are hitting their metrics, and teach them the skills to be successful at their job. But if they still won't do the things that will make them successful, they don't need to be a part of the team.
Cool, we'll do 2 more questions. Todd had one?
This is actually going to go back to a previous thing. Scrap that, I totally forgot.
Okay.
I just blanked.
All good.
You touched on sales training. What kind of sales training do you provide for like a new SDR that's just coming in?
I mean, it's a really broad array of trainings. You have to teach them.
Outside of product, though?
Yeah, outside of product, you're going to be able to teach them how to talk on the phone, cold calling. You're going to do practice drills with their team members and their managers. You're going to teach them basic sales skills. You're going to have to teach them the elevator pitch. Everything is going to be teach and practice, teach and practice, teach and practice, because you're going to be basically front loading their brains with all the information before they're able to be customer facing.
Is that similar? Yeah, so the SDR training and sales training in general that I've had a lot of success with is out of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mark Robert's book. Mark had him speak recently, the Sales Acceleration Formula. But anyways, in the book and the sales training part of it, what it says is pick out 10 core competencies of your business that somebody needs to understand in order for them to get on the phone. And those can be, internal competencies, whether it's like Salesforce, industry knowledge, and product knowledge, and then things that you need to know about your customer, whether it's how to just run like a basic intro call, questions that are going to get to the pain points, and have those 5-10 competencies, have quizzes and accountability around them. If somebody can pass those tests, do the correct role plays, you should throw them in the fire right away.
We'll do one more. Make up question? Okay. Go ahead.
All right, I actually remembered this. This is going back to a previous thing. I'm a big fan of relationship building post the sale. I know a lot of what we've been discussing about is, hey, you learn these points where you learn about the person and you build up a rapport, you build up a good relationship, and then close. What are your thoughts on continuing to reach out even post-close? For me, I want to eventually develop strong referrals.
Yeah.
Build a strong relationship. I'll grab a beer with a person months after I sold them something. Why? They might tell me something that might be great. What are your thoughts on that?
2 big thoughts on that. One, that's awesome. You want to build the biggest book of business you can build because you're not going to be in the same career your whole life, and you want to be able to call people if you change roles and show them something different they haven't seen before. So you want to connect with them and engage with them and maintain that relationship. Second, to your point, advocacy. Building that relationship that continues after the point of sale that says, I didn't just take you on a day's sleep with you and leave you, I'm actually going to have a relationship with you moving forward, helps build them as an advocate for your company. So they will be the ones who will retweet the things that you say. They'll be the ones that introduce you to other people and build that referral base out. So yeah, I think it's important to build advocacy with these relationships.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's one of the biggest frustrations that I think myself and most other sales managers have is that, yeah, we won the deal, we passed them on to customer success. When it's time for referrals, who are you going to call? It's going to be the guy that you went to get a beer with, or the person that you checked in on, whether they're having a problem or things are going great. So I think it's awesome that you do that.
Can I quickly follow up on that?
Out of this, we're going to break. You can approach it, but before we break, I just wanted to thank the community. This is number 8. This is a huge turnout. Big round of applause for everybody. We are having our next meetup next month, probably the 2nd week. Details to follow, details to come. Big thank you to Smartling. Woo! And big thank you to Hire. Big thank you to Hire. Before we break, a special thank you, Dan, Chad. Thank you very much for sharing your insight.